All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Arts Council of Princeton for our Princeton Pecha #5, More Show, Less Talk. I'm thrilled that you could join us here this evening and watch this great presentation of these great artists, curated and organized by Heather Barros, who will be doing a brief introduction as we speak.
Okay. First picture. The artists in this Pecha all belong to the same co-op gallery in Lambertville called the Artists Gallery. The gallery is located in a very sweet spot on Bridge Street, close to the bridge, which crosses the Delaware River, heading into Pennsylvania. Next. There are 16 of us. We all exhibit together, changing much of the work every month and taking turns gallery sitting. Next. The gallery has been in existence for about 25 years, and Joe Kazimierczyk has been our president for more than 10 years. Back to the list of artists. A quick introduction to each of the 6 artists in order of their appearance. Jane Adriance, a Princeton resident, has been a member of the Arts Council of Princeton since the day it opened 50 years ago. Jane's work will be in the next show here at the Arts Council in February, along with Bob Jenkins and his papier-mâché animals. Beatrice Bork, a watercolor artist, has been specializing in wildlife art for 30 years. Many of her paintings are based on her own travel and research around the world. She is a signature member of the International Society of Animal Artists. Bill Jersey came into painting from a 40-year career as an award-winning filmmaker. Now, in his 90s, Bill paints like a teenager. His oil paintings are large and colorful, and he still completes 1 or 2 a week. As one gallery visitor commented, Bill Jersey keeps his knives sharp. Joe Kazimierczyk works in oil paint and specializes in his own nearby landscapes of the Sauerland Mountains. No matter what the season, his paintings glow with the color of light. Laura Renner paints on wood, honoring everyday objects and contemporary scenes with her touch. She is a member of the Philadelphia Sketch Club and has recently shown at the Viridian Gallery in New York City. Carol Sanzalone is inspired by the graphic impact of light. Working with both watercolor and acrylic, she paints the color of natural subjects and the shape of their shadows.
Hi, I have been a psychotherapist, clinical licensed social worker for the last 50 years, and I really got interested in other people's perceptions, points of view in life. So this is a perfect example of contrasts, contradictions, tension. This is a painting from a more tight left side to a opening, like an inhale and an exhale, a contrast of movement to the right. So I want to have different points of view when I paint. And not only mystery and sensuality. This is a contrast of reality and abstract. I love the contrast of the volume and the flat. This is a point of tension, and I listening to couples talk to each other. There's always a point of tension, and this is a different kind of contrast of, again, a rose with abstract. This one is I call restrained release. So at the top, things are more geometric and kind of like holding your breath, and then it lets go. So it's called restrained and release. And in working with people, there's a lot of restrain and release. this very strong contrast and a lot of movement. This has a little more sensuality to it. My oils, these are all watercolors. The last 10 are oils. And so the abstracts, this is the beginning of some of the abstracts, even in watercolor. The panel below helps for the movement to move to the right. Again, it's from a different point of view. And I like the motion to the right. This is about the contrast of transparency and more opaque. I love this one. I love the way it's up and down and across and in and out. This is the one with a little more mystery and a little contradiction, no such thing as a blue fruit, and what is going on behind the curtain. And that is the mystery. This is called Gothic setting because the top is very cathedral-like, and the bottom is this vase that goes clunk. And I think the clunk of the vase makes the glow above more apparent. This is the beginning of an oil. This is, of course, a kind of romantic, dark light, weird point of view, different perspective, perhaps. This is one of the paintings in which I have another painting in it, which is, obviously a contradiction, but I like the dynamic movement of the clouds along with the sort of window that you're looking out into. This is called, I think, how about dancing? Shall we dance? This again is more about sensuality and rhythms. And these were all done during the pandemic last year, when I really went into oils and was more interested in rhythms and dancing through the isolation. This was also these are all during the pandemic. This is called Hope Springs Eternal. This has some mystery to it. And, what is this about? This is in and out, forward, sideways, backwards, and yet has a very beautiful rhythm. This is called Embrace, which is soft, light, and kind of harsh blue spikes that offsets the sensuality of the glow, which enhance each other. This is called Leaning In. Beatrice gave me the title for this. She can talk about it herself. No, this is dynamic and has lots of contrasts and confusion, maybe some solidity also. This one is called the weight of absence. So the big white shape sets everything off around it because of its absence of rhythm. And this is the same experiment of having quiet and busy, which sets each other off. It's like two sides of a coin. I'm really interested in the idea of two sides. Every coin has two sides.
My life's experiences and observations seem to filter through my love of animals and nature. I explore these thoughts almost exclusively with watercolor and gouache. This is Boys of Summer. This is exploring some humor and symbolism. These are male goldfinches, and to the right is a bumblebee. Other pieces are often inspired by nostalgia and memory, but all my work is personal. Hearing gulls always reminds me of childhood vacations at the Jersey Shore. This is Sounds of Summer. These are laughing gulls. I was awarded a trip to Trinidad and Tobago in 2004 for achievements in bird art. It was so inspiring, I went back 8 times. I have enough memories and research to inspire many future paintings. Here I am on the veranda of the Acerite Nature Center in Trinidad, painting Jacobin and the mango tree. The hummingbird was there momentarily, but long enough to inspire the piece.
It's great.
As with many birds, the male is often the pretty one, but it is the female who makes the final choice. Here, the female is checking out the male to see if he's Mr. Right, which is also the title of the painting. These birds are called Violaceous euphonia. Becoming more knowledgeable about the Trinidad ecosystem makes it easier to pull together a more complex scenario. This piece is Close Encounter. It's a channel-billed toucan and a collared tree runner lizard, which is hanging underneath the branch on the left. While I enjoy traveling, I really don't have to go far to be inspired. This seemingly happy house finch spent some time perched on my deck, and I added soap bubbles to emphasize what seemed to me to be a carefree feeling. This song sparrow was performing at a local nature preserve. The background texture added to the musical vibe of the piece that I call Sing. The song Sing was actually being celebrated for Sesame Street's 50th year anniversary, and the title just kind of all came at an apex on that one. This piece was inspired from a visit to a nearby friend's house. A patch of obedient plant full of life had me distracted with ideas. This large piece is called Humbuzz. These are female ruby-throated hummingbirds, along with several bees and other insects. I often find artistic serendipity on my early morning walks with my dog. This dove was soaking in some sunshine on the street. Here's the process for the groundskeeper. Sketch to final portrait. This cottontail rabbit, a lot of life, and I can have his portrait. It's an Eastern cottontail. So life is not without turmoil. This piece came from my own. Flamingos became my symbolic pink ribbons, my warriors in pink. This is Through the Shoals. I frequently explore parallels and balance in my work, as I have done here with Pinnacle. The weight of the decaying tree with the very small bird was a fun challenge. It's a fairly large painting. The bird is a ruby-throated hummingbird, a male. This piece, I created a branch to enable me to place the birds into the positions I wanted. It was important to me to emphasize the chickadees with the chickadee's curious nature. This piece is called Winter Curiosity, and the second bird is a white-breasted nuthatch. Time is also a recurring theme in my work. This is a typical scene of our local winters. I included a female cardinal to work with the winter colors, as well as having her crest echo the bent stalks. Forsyth Wildlife Refuge has inspired many paintings and is one of my favorite places to visit in New Jersey. Here again, I explore time in tide watch. Pier decay and rotting bolts work well with the ruddy turnstone colors. Again in Forsyth, the active textures and calming scene drew me to create this piece called Marshmallow. To the right is a detail of the painting. It is a yellow legs marsh piper. This is Steadfast, a great blue heron. There is a lot to be inspired by these large, beautiful birds. In this piece, it was strength, stillness, and an ocean breeze that sparked my creativity. While my focus is birds, I am fascinated by all animals, from the smallest on up. A couple of these are commission pieces and the rest were just backyard inspirations. I am truly blessed to have been painting and earning a living from my art for around 30 years. Ever since I sold my first painting in high school, for better or worse, I believed it was possible. So I end with this piece entitled Life is Good. Thank you.
If you're ever asked to be with a group of painters, try not to be with me, because look at her work. Her work is so fantastic. Well, it's the best I can do. My wife decided that I should paint because I was bored with being in Vermont and just looking at the lovely hills and so. So she said, why don't you go buy some paint? So I bought some paints at the local store, and this was one of my first paintings. This was the later one, and I love this painting mainly because of the people who live there. Unfortunately, I don't have the picture, I don't think, of them, but they stood out, the whole family, mom, pop, and 4 kids stood out in front of this building, and I took their picture. It's such a delight to paint people's places and have the people enjoy your work. I don't know what's going on with this funny image here, but there's something, oh, there we go. We're now in Italy, one of my favorite places to paint and to live for that matter. This was once a home of monks, but now it's just a residence. And what made this painting work was it was the lighting. The lighting, like surprise. The lighting is always what makes a painting work, but often it's the color too. The color of that distant hill is what, to me, that's where I started. And then I walked back literally up the hill and painted the building, painted the scene from the top of the hill. Nature is wonderful in that it provides action if you just pay attention. And it's all the time, things are going on in the world. Trees are blowing, grass is blowing. And this particular one in California was strong because it's right on the coast. I also love it when clouds behave in a way that intrigues me. Well, they're like people. This one is called Clouds Rising. And it was a moment when they were rising, just like that. Sometimes you make things up. This one was not made up. It was given to me graciously by nature. Another thing nature provides is shadow and light. I love the shadow that it falls on trees or buildings or fields, but particularly these blue shadows that's crawling up these white trees as I looked out my window. This is right outside my window. As you can see, I love painting. I paint regularly. I paint probably painting at least once a week, sometimes twice. And fortunately, I had a good sale of 57 last month. But sell or not, I just enjoy painting and enjoy living with the painting. This one is one of my favorites. It's where we had the big sale. It's the Prohlsville Mill on Route, I forget, in Bucks County. It's a wonderful old mill, and there is where they have shows. Every month they have a new artist. So I invite you to go see them. This is one of my special paintings because it shows exactly my process. The tree, as you can imagine, did not get light at the top and get dark at the bottom, nor did the leaves get light at the west and dark in the beginning. It's my choice to emphasize, to invite you to see it the way I want you to see it. And in this case, the leaves, the limbs were all blue in shadow, white limbs in shadow. But it was so distracting for all those limbs being in blue, being black. So I painted them in blue and left just this one small section of black. This is one of my son's favorites. It is mine too. It's palette knife. I would work in palette knife all the time, except uses up too much paint. But it's the thing that palette knife gives you is with one stroke, you have 5 strokes of a brush. And the textures it gives you and the depth that you get from a palette knife, it's a pleasure. This was one of my early paintings of the canal nearby my house in Lambertville. I'm not sure whether that bridge was functional or not, but it was what I needed, so I painted it. And I like water because it reflects and changes the character of what it reflects, as I hope I do with my painting. This was one of my big favorites. I'm going to paint it again. I have the photograph that I took to make it possible, but it's a big tree. Just I'm not even sure where it is. It's somewhere in Bucks County, and the lushness of the tree, the red mixed with the yellow with the orange. Here, this one is a simple painting of a road down to a farm, but at the end of the road was this big white barn, and it just stuck out. It sort of jumped off the page. So I put a tree in front of the barn, made the barn back where it belonged. And now we have this my neighbor's laundry we put out on the first warm day of spring a few years ago, quite a few years ago actually. And I thought that's what a wonderful thing. I call it sign of spring, because laundry blowing dry is a sign of spring. And this, of course, is a sign of winter. I tried to keep color out of this, to make it what I call an elegant understatement of the scene, because it's easy to with bright light, bright colors all bounce off the roof or the side. This is mainly why I paint, besides my own personal pleasure, is I earn a living. And here's one of my favorite clients who is very happy with her purchase, which is one of the bigger ones, 48 by 48, I think, competing with the flowers below, but that's all right. And this one I'm showing you because it's one of my favorite clients. My granddaughter bought this painting for more money than I think she earns in a month. And I felt badly about taking her money, but then I thought, no, that would be an insult to her. She wanted to invest in it, she bought it, and she's happy with it. Most of my life has been making documentaries for television. And so I thought I would show off a few of the awards. But it's the main awards really is doing a film that people can care about and that makes a difference in their life as well as the lives of others.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Kazimierczyk, and I thought I would start out with this photograph. It's from a show I had at Artist Gallery a few years ago, and I thought it just gives a nice overview of the type of work that I'm currently doing right now. As you can see, I'm a landscape painter, and I paint a lot of woodland scenes. But to start with, this is actually an older piece of mine where I used to paint a lot with acrylics. And this is one of my favorites from that period. And acrylics I thought were great, that I could really build up complicated paintings layer by layer. But somewhere along the way, I think I fell in love with the way oil paints handle over acrylics. The way you can blend paint and it just handles so much differently. This one's at Princeton Battlefield, and I love the perfect symmetry of the trees, with all of the interest really being on the ground plane and in the ruts in the snow. Also, snow is something that I really love to paint. As you can see, I said I paint a lot of woodland scenes. So out in the woods here, I love exploring a lot of the parks of New Jersey. I've been doing a lot of hiking, and that's where all of my inspiration is coming from these days. I used to paint a lot plein air on location, but now that I'm doing this subject matter, it would really be difficult to carry my paints and canvases out in the woods. Some of these would require carrying, wet paintings out 5 or 6, 7 miles or so from the car. And so I really work mainly from photographs these days. So I take a lot of photographs, just try to pay attention a lot when I'm outside. And back in the studio, it gives me time to really try different things and experiment a bit more than as opposed to being on location where sometimes you get trapped into really just painting what's literally right in front of you. Like this one is a actual scene. It's a real place. I've painted it 5 or 6 times, but this one painting I call Autumn Memories because it's really a sort of a conglomeration of all the memories I have of this one particular spot. And even though it really doesn't look like that, that painting to me feels more like the place than any of my photographs do. Skies are something I love to paint. I think a lot of landscape painters would say the same. This is just a sunset I passed one day, and it's hard for me to stop, drive by a sunset without stopping and taking a dozen photographs. But one summer I did nothing but paint skyscapes and cloudscapes totally from memory and imagination. And this is one of them. And I thought it was a really great exercise to do for sharpening your skills of observation and memory, hopefully, where you really stop and look at something, try to remember what's important, what made you stop and look, what made you pay attention. And I'm hoping it's those things that really make it back into the painting as opposed to unnecessary detail, which is, an easy trap to fall into. This one, I admit, I did because I had purchased a box of 12 by 36-inch canvases, and it sat around my house for years because I couldn't figure out what to paint in that format. And when I was on my sky kick painting these, this sunset was just calling out for that size canvas. So it worked out good, I thought. Back in the woods here, like I said, I like exploring new places. I'm always looking for new places to visit, and I always find something worth painting there. This is at Ken Lockwood Gorge near High Bridge, New Jersey. Absolutely gorgeous place. You should visit it if you've never been there. Water, as you can see, is another recurring theme in my work. Skies are one, water is another. Water is really fascinating. It's transparent and reflective at the same time. The surface distortions cause a lot of interest in the painting. This one, besides being interested in this little waterfall, I think I was just really attracted to the mossy boulders on this one. Just something really peaceful about this one, I thought. Let's see. This is at Alamucci Mountain, a bit north of Hackettstown. And I remember sitting in this spot, just really taking in the view. I loved the moody sky, the feeling of the place. And I remember I was really worrying if I was going to get back to my car before dark, which fortunately I did. This is at Wanakee High Point, overlooking the Wanakee Reservoir. And like a lot of my other ones, it's sort of that wide, expansive view of the landscape, sort of the big view, I think of it. But sometimes I look around for a sort of a more intimate view of nature, something a little bit closer up. This one I wanted to show you because it's one of the few interior scenes I've ever done, and I would love to do more. This barn, unfortunately, is no longer there. It was at St. Michael's Preserve by Hopewell, and I'm glad I had a chance to paint it when I did. It's been replaced with something newer and not quite as interesting. As I said, I'm looking for sort of that more closer, intimate view of things in nature, and beech trees are something that just really fascinate me. I'm doing a little bit of sort of an ongoing series of beech trees. Something about them sometimes to me looks a little more animal than tree, where especially the roots, sometimes the roots especially look like a tangle of arms and legs, and they just have so much character, I think. And besides beech trees, another occasionally recurring theme of mine is little flower portraits. I think of them as just an individual flower A little bit, the more beat up it is, the more interesting it looks, I think. And this is my last slide, so thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Laura Renner. Thanks for having me. This is my little Laura room, my studio where I do all of my work. I paint on wood primarily, which sort of evolved from not having any money a long time ago. And I found some small unused furniture that I would sand and paint on. This is one of my favorites. This is called Gone. This is in Camden. Camden used to be, and it's evolving, but they had so many beautiful parks. This got overrun by water. This is New York City. This is Central Park. You'll see more of my interest in water, especially. It just sort of there's like a dual part of the of interest going on in light source. Also Central Park. This you could see again more of my interest in doing a lot of shadow work. I feel like it in this case it sort of leads up to what our interest is as folks on the hill. This is my willing and unpaid model, my husband, in one of my favorite areas to paint, Cape May. I just love the light in this one. And I love really capturing small bits of him looking at his phone. And when this comes into view, this is under the pier in Atlantic City. My cat. You can see again. I just loved. I really wanted to show how large those pillars were. So I added that small figure there. And this is my daughter and her friend years ago. We know exactly what they're doing, and that's why I wanted to paint it. They're on their phones without seeing the phone. So I just love the shadow work in there. And I do like to do interiors as well as landscape. And I just love, again, the play of shadows and reflections. I just love the way the blue is popping on her shirt and their skin tone. It was a challenge, and it was it was fun to do. More reflections, and again, I really like to work with the huge contrasts that often you see in the sky at certain points at nighttime. And this is down in Cape May. So I live in Collingswood. Our community is surrounded by water. I walk in a half mile in any direction. I'm either here at the Newton Creek, or the next slide is again just a half mile from my house. This is the Cooper River. I've done a lot of paintings with the Cooper River as my source. Again, it's just looking different all the time, the different reflections in the water, and the different tones that I see in the landscape. So even a dismal day, I find very interesting, because I find different colors and contrast that I really like to capture. And my parents used to live up in Honesdale, northeastern Pennsylvania, and I started to really notice and capture a lot of the animals living on farms, and including them in the landscape. This is actually, I thought it was Lambertville, but no, actually this is New Hope. And I'm not sure if they do, I don't think they do any of the mule rides anymore, but I just thought this was a great subject. The mule just kind of just outside of view. I'm a retired occupational therapist. I used to commute down to Salem County every day. It was a 50-minute ride, and I had to be there early. So I saw some great animals, mostly cattle, because Cowtown is right nearby. This I love because this is almost all reflection work, and you could see how I just enjoy doing that. It's almost like two canvases. And then I started really experimenting with this this format. Really kind of I had to make some decision about what I really want to put in here, what's going to draw me into the picture. I really like this this format a lot. And then I carried this into a lot of the animal paintings that I do. Mostly Lulu. She's in a lot of paintings. She's in the studio right now, trying to jump on me. She's a willing subject.
Oh, that's pretty.
This is our cat, actually. She lived for 23 years. She's not with us anymore, but I really like the not just the image, because I know who she is, but I just love the contrast and the different colors. The secondary colors are playing with each other, the green and the orange. And finally, this is Who Am I? Again, just you can see what I love to do. This the shadows, reflections. This is just like all of that put together. And I thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Carol Sanzalone, and I'm very thrilled to be able to show you some of my work. I've been an artist pretty much all of my life, and I've worked in a lot of different medium, one of which was silkscreen. And because of that, I really enjoy the graphic quality of a subject. This is an acrylic painting along the canal, and this is a watercolor of Lewis's Island. Lewis's Island is an island that was owned by the Lewis family, is owned by the Lewis family in Lambertville, and this is their summer cottage on Lewis's Island. And it's now the home of the Shad Fest fishing competition in Lambertville. I also, because of my graphic background, I really enjoy working and making some images more abstract. And the lights at night along Bridge Street in Lambertville were my inspiration for this particular piece. It's watercolor and acrylic. I enjoy working in water media. And this is, there's a fence as you leave the Catholic Church parking lot in Lambertville. And there are these flowers and leaves and things that grow over the top of the fence. And this was one fall that caught my eye, and I took some photographs, and this painting in acrylic came out of that. This is a watercolor of from the Lambertville side of the river looking across to New Hope. And you can see it, how it's called Morning at the Bridge. And you can see how I really enjoy blending the colors that as the sun and the light blends the colors during the day and the seasons. And that's why watercolor is so wonderful, because you can put washes, and acrylic too, washes of color over the top of a subject. This is an acrylic and a watercolor. Began as a watercolor, and then some of these little flowers shapes needed to stand out more, and so I used acrylic. This is another plein air painting done on site in Lambertville along the canal, where beautiful colors happen, and it's also watercolor. This is called Garden Color Patterns. We've lived in West Amwell Township for about 50 years, which is right up the hill from Lambertville. And as I told you before, I have a graphic background. I'm also a graphic designer, but also from doing my silkscreen. And I really enjoy petals and leaves and their shapes and the graphic quality that can be created by the change in values of watercolor. This is another that I call a petal party, and the textures of the leaves in the background. This is called Sunlit Garden Shapes. Again, a very graphic quality petals of yellow that that I then incorporated some background graphic quality. And I paint on site a lot of times in Lambertville, and there's this one garden down in town where he really likes for me to come in and paint. And these are hosta patterns in his backyard, and the texture of the lights and darks, and the abstract quality of the petals. This is called Land Shapes, and I really love the graphic quality of reality, and you can see the water and the trees and the sunlight and the shapes that are created in this particular piece. This is called Growing Excitement, and it was a watercolor. I often put tissue paper down on the paper first to get texture and put the color into the tissue paper. And then when that's dry, I peel it off and sometimes work on top of that and create other details. This is called Wash of Petals. This is called Wash of Petals. And you can see the graphic quality that I picked up from those particular flower petals, and working with the green graphic quality in the background. Again, it's watercolor. And this is Snowy Morning, also watercolor. It was my front yard in the house that we lived in before this one, and the wonderful colors of winter. This is on the canal in Lambertville, and it's literally on the canal in Lambertville from Bridge Street looking across the canal. And it is watercolor and acrylic to create textures. And I enjoyed doing this one, as I do all my others. And this is summer afternoon on Chimney Hill. We live on Chimney Hill. This is my backyard looking off my deck. And again, it's watercolor. And I love the color and the washes of color. This is also my backyard, but for some reason, this color in this does not stand out as sharply as it does in the actual piece. This is acrylic with a layering process of color leaves on a watercolor base. That's why I called it Leafy Mosaic. And back there someplace is Golden Field. There's a field behind my house, which has wonderful colors that happen. And this one wasn't really done on site. It was just done out of my head because I've worked so long that way. And this is called Leafy Morning. One morning I came out on my back door and there it was, this wonderful, beautiful leaf. And Lambertville and the West Amwell area has all these gorgeous colors and shapes and images that happen. And I'm able to work on the washes of color with watercolor and acrylic. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. The Arts Council of Princeton is so happy to be able to present to you Princeton Pecha #5. And I want to give an extra special shout out to all of the artists that joined us this evening to give this presentation for a second time, as well as Heather to help gather all these artists together. And I want to spend an extra second here to point out all of the social media and website presence of these artists. Though it's great to be able to see their work in this presentation and in this format, ultimately the better way to do it is to go to the website, and the best of all methods would be to check out their work in person. If you head on over to Lambertville Arts in person in Lambertville, New Jersey, 18 Bridge Street, you can see at the Artist Gallery their work in person. You can also check out their website at lambertvillearts.com. And I want to make sure I give a big shout out to Heather and all of you for joining us this evening. Thank you all so much for volunteering your time. Thank you.
We're open Thursday through Sunday, all afternoon. Come by.
Bye.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about Thanks, everyone. Sorry about any technical issues that we may or may not have had. Thank you so much for doing this again. I know it's painful to do it once, and it's more painful to do it twice. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, thanks,
Really
guys.
appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice week. Have a nice snowy weekend.
Yes,
Safe,
All right.
and
everybody.
stay safe.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you again.
Bye-bye.